What is happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Rose Show. As always, I am your host, Jay. Who else but me? What is happening, everybody? I hope everyone had a great Royal Rumble weekend for those who are wrestling fans. If you're not, that's fine too. We're good with everything here. But as you can see from the decor I keep in the set behind me, this chair right here was from the Royal Rumble in San Antonio that I bought off a friend. Royal Rumble is my favorite event of the year. So it was a big weekend for me. If it's not your thing, just skip forward a couple minutes. I understand. However, let's go ahead and break that down a little bit because I at least want to cover that before we get into today's episode with Grue. So, couple of thoughts right off the rip. R-Truth is a national treasure and needs to be protected at all costs. When he came out during the Women's Royal Rumble, I laughed probably the hardest I laughed all night. And then when he came back into the men's and tried to do the whole tag team thing to Tom and Nick Mysterio, oh God, it's so great, so great. He's definitely doing his best work right now. But I really enjoyed that. My overall thoughts about the matches in between both the men's and the women's rumble, kind of predictable. I mean, they weren't bad. It just didn't really pull me in because not for one second did I think Roman Reigns was going to lose, and not for one second did I think Logan Paul was going to lose. They're not going to take those two titles. Obviously, they're not going to take it off Roman yet. Not going to happen. They were clearly waiting for Cody, which is what we'll get to here in a second. But we're not going to take the title off Logan Paul a couple of months before WrestleMania. It's not going to happen. So he'll lose it at WrestleMania. It's not going to happen yet. So I didn't, there was nothing really pulling me into either one of those two. The whole time I was just kind of like, all right, come on, let's get to the main event here. So, and it was long enough anyway, even though there was only what, 4 matches announced? It was still long enough. So yeah, but I actually enjoyed the women's rumble more than I enjoyed the men's, which is kind of rare for me because normally it's usually the other way. I normally don't have a preference, but this year I thought the women did a much better job than the men's. Um, Jade Cargill making her debut. Holy crap, did she look like $100 million? She obviously clearly still has some work to do behind the scenes and tighten some things up, but man, what an impact she made. And speaking of impact, no pun intended, we got the returns of Naomi. And I guess not a return, but the debut of Jordan Grace, who I thought Jordan Grace out of the entire match she looked great. Not from a physical aspect, but she gelled really well throughout that entire Rumble. And not only that, it was just cool to see yet another TNA knockout champion be in the Rumble. I love that kind of stuff. So it was really cool to see that. And like I said, she did a really good job. My pick to win actually won it. You can go back and check me on it if you want to. I picked Bayley to win this. I thought it was her time. Obviously, they've been building to that with the story with her and the rest of Damage Control. But it was the right choice, I feel. And again, I really did enjoy the women's rumble. I think all those ladies did a great job. The men's, it wasn't necessarily that it wasn't as entertaining, I don't think. It was just obvious. I said it myself. I thought it was coming down to Punk and Rhodes. Um, and it did, obviously, clearly. That's where they were building. So Cody winning, again, I think it was a bit expected, but who else other than Punk but Cody? We've been building to that since last WrestleMania. This is hopefully going to be the year that Cody gets it into the main event. So there wasn't really anything that happened other than Braun Breaker making his debut, and apparently he's main roster now. He said apparently that that's his home. He's done with NXT, which he had a great showing. Man, that guy can go. They said something crazy during the show. I guess when he's running the ropes, he's been clocked at going 25 mile an hour. A human being has been clocked running the ropes at 25 mile an hour. That's insane. Obviously, there's talent there, but and Andrade coming back. That's something else that I think was kind of a cool moment. But other than that, everybody knew who was winning. It wasn't going to be anyone other than Punk and Cody. So it was kind of whatever to me. Wasn't the best Rumble ever, but far from the worst. We've had way worse in the history of Royal Rumble. So I enjoyed watching it. Didn't do a real big shebang bang this year, but like I normally do, because normally I go all out. We didn't do that this year. But yeah, it was a good time. So we are fully in WrestleMania season now. So this is the best time of year for me. But yeah, we'll see where it goes the next couple of years. However, I just wanted to address that. Again, if wrestling's not your thing, we'll go ahead and move on because we do have a really good one scheduled today with Grue. We had a great conversation. I think that a lot of people who don't know who she is will look into who she is after the fact, just hearing this interview, because we talk about some in-depth stuff. Some of it's going to get uncomfortable, especially if you're not okay with the dynamic of talking about some of the more I don't like saying the word oppressed because that's not the right word. Some of the more neglected parts of the underground and music in general, we're going to touch on. Um, and again, it's we're not going to get political. I don't allow anything that I do to get political, but we are going to talk about some of the cause and effects and topics like that. But stick with it. Trust me, we're not getting into the politics of anything. Just what she has to deal with. Because hey, take it from me. I've been backstage. We talk about this in the episode here in a couple minutes. I've been backstage, I've been front stage, I've been all throughout a venue. These things are real. They happen. So um don't think that we're trying to make any kind of statement with this. We're just talking about the history and some of the challenges that she's had to deal with. But that's a very small portion of what we talk about. So let's go ahead and get into it after a word from our sponsors. I think everybody's gonna really enjoy it. Don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts on the episode with me, and subscribe on all platforms, whatever you're watching this on or listening to this to. Please subscribe because that's the best way you can support the show. Liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. That's all you got to do. So all those things are free. Hook your homie up. Let's hear from our sponsor and let's get to it. All right, everybody, it's time to stop and let you know about today's sponsor of the show, Crazy Martin's in Piqua, Ohio, one of my favorite places in the entire world to go to. Crazy Martin's has provided their customers with quality products for over 20 years, from ashtrays to water pipes and everything in between. Stop in, check out their selection, and of course, check out their pinball machines. With over 20 pins to choose from, there is something for everyone. Crazy since 1996. I don't just say this about every place. I love going to Crazy Martin's. I've always loved going to Crazy Martin's ever since I was of age to go to Crazy Martin's. It's one of my favorite places in the entire world. Me and my wife go there almost every Sunday to play pinball machines. It is one of the funnest spots in Ohio you could possibly find. It is in Piqua, Ohio. Check out their website at www.crazymartins.com. All right. What's up, everybody? It's that time again. You are rocking with The Rose Show. I am your host, Jay. Now, this is normally the part of the show where I give my intro. But before I do that, I got to do one thing right fast. So I'm going to date myself here a little bit. But this is a CD book. Now, for some of the people who don't know what a CD book is, this was basically our Spotify in the early 2000s, right? So I've kept this CD book for a very long time. As you can see, there's a lot of empty pages and stuff like that. I've gone through, I've just kind of gotten rid of quite a bit of stuff that I don't really listen to anymore. But there's one album in particular that I've hung on to for a couple of years, and it's right here. Let's see if we can see it. Yep, right there. I caught this at the gathering of the Juggalos the last time my guest today was there, and I've kept it because it meant a lot to me. I actually got hit to her right as she was retiring, and it was kind of sad at first, but upon further reflection, as you see her right now, at the time her name was Molly Gruesome. Now her name is Grue. I'm so excited that she's back. How the hell are you doing today, my friend?
I'm all right. I'm all right. That's cool that you have that album. I don't think a lot of people do because, like you said, it was like right at the tail end, and which is too bad because I honestly think it was a pretty good piece of work. But the timing I didn't end up getting to promote it very much. It was literally like I had it printed. I did like two more shows and then I was out. So, but that's cool, man. Holy, that's going back. That's like 7 years ago. Was that
Yeah.
that gathering? Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
it's been quite a long time, too damn long, as a matter of fact. It both seems like it wasn't that
Great.
long ago, and it was long ago. Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. Well,
Tough
let's go ahead
time.
and start off. I've always been kind of interested in what really got you into music in general. So why don't you go ahead and just tell us about your background and where you grew up and all that good stuff.
Um, I born and raised in Guelph, Ontario, Canada. Um, and I started out kind of as like a metalhead, but it was new metal, which obviously you're wearing the corn shirt. Yes,
Hmm.
yes.
Yep.
You know
Hmm.
all about the new metal. So like hip hop just kind of melded into that. And then at the time, like Eminem was huge when I was a teenager. He That was like the second concert I ever saw was Eminem on the Marshall Mathers tour that he did. So I got to see him actually and didn't come back to Canada for like 10 years after that. So that was kind of cool. So I kind of just got into hip hop then and uh obviously into ICP as well. That they were big when I was in high school, and a homie of mine got me hooked on Great Milenko and Amazing Jackal Brothers, and I was just like, this is the shit. But there wasn't really a lot of juggalos that I knew in my area or my hometown and stuff. So it was kind of just like my own thing that I liked until I went to the States to see ICP. I think saw them in Niagara Falls, New York, and I met Juggalos for the first time. And just being in that lineup was more exciting and interesting than a lot of shows I've been to. Like the hypeness of the crowd and the hypeness and like people are chanting and singing and spraying Fago. I went there by myself. I didn't know anybody. And people are just making friends with me in the lineup and being super cool. And I'm just like, all right, this is amazing. So when the gathering was coming around the following year, I was just like, yes, I'm going for it. Like this sounds so cool. I'm just gonna go. And I'm just like, I think I was maybe I was old enough to drink in the States, I think. So I had to be like 21 at the time. And I just went by myself. I was like, I'm gonna go by myself. I'm just gonna roll up. I'll make friends there. Who cares? I'll just pitch a tent and make some friends. And I was talking to some people online at some juggalos from this area, and they were like, no, that's not happening. You're coming with us. You're gonna come and camp with us. And they just took me in and brought me into their camp. And funny enough, Illegal was camping on that same campsite that year. And that's when I kind of got introduced to her and her stuff. I knew a little bit of it before, but that was kind of cool. Like she's been a huge inspiration of mine. You don't obviously see a whole lot of female rappers in the scene, so at the time I was kind of just getting started there, and that started me off in as far as the Juggalo scene goes. Like it was just kind of the acceptance and the people who didn't know me would just take time out of their lives to bring me along with them. They didn't know me at all. They didn't owe me anything, and they were super cool the whole time. Friends that I still have to this day, which is awesome. So um, that just kind of got me into that. So um, and music, as far as music itself, when I first started, I was doing like a joke band. Me and a friend, this is when I was in college, and we were just drunk college students. We would just get together and write silly songs on my computer, and I would make the beats, and we'd just record right on my laptop, and just make like the dumbest stuff, like songs about like we were big fans of Dave Chappelle, so we do like songs about Dave Chappelle skits or whatever, just dumb stuff. And we did a
All right,
couple
hang on, time out,
performances.
time out, time out, time out.
Yeah.
If if you have any copies or anything of these Dave Chappelle songs, I have to hear it. I'm not saying anybody watching this here. I have to hear it because I was such a huge fan of Chappelle's show growing up, and yeah, we'll talk out there after that. But I needed to at least put that out there. I have to hear that.
This is going way back, and so I don't know if they still exist, but that was kind of our thing. We just did like really weird out there music, and like vulgar kind of raps, and we just kind of like to be shocking. Like we would go out there. Our mascot was this mannequin that had like a dildo attached to it, and we'd put that up on stage and just make asses of ourselves. But it was it was just something like we wanted to do just to make ourselves laugh, and some people kind of seemed to start digging it, and we got quite a few shows. And then my friend who was in the group with me kind of just wasn't really feeling doing anymore. um, I'm sure doing the whole show circuit is very hit or miss. There are a lot of shows we
Mm.
did that were in crappy venues, and there's nobody there, and there's no promotion, and we're stuck put on like dead last. And there was just like a lot of it. She just didn't want to deal with it, which I understand. So then I was like, okay, I'm on my own. What am I gonna do? I started doing raps and writing, and I started working under Molly Gruesome because it was my internet handle at the time, which I think a lot of rappers from back in the day maybe can relate. Like whatever you chose for like your chat name or something, or whatever your MySpace handle or something like that, like ends up like just catching on, right?
Yep, I was a big fan of anime when I first started getting into music, and I
Nice.
was watching at the time an anime called Ronin Warriors, and there was a character on that show named Kento of Hard Rock. And
Okay.
I was like, I named myself Kento. So up until the point, I think around I was 19, my handle on social media, whatever, AOL Instant Messenger was what our social media was back then. My
Yeah.
handle was x Kento SIX, which is still an AOL address I have to this day. I know I have AOL. It's fucking crazy. But that's what my rap name was because that's who I introduced myself as on social media. So you're absolutely
Yeah.
correct on that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like I think I was looking for a handle one time, and at the time I was watching this movie. It's an old cartoon called The Last Unicorn. I don't know if you're
Mm.
familiar with it, but
Hmm.
it's like from the 70s, and it's just this creepy kids cartoon, which some kids movies back in the day are like nightmare fuel, dude. Like
Hmm.
it's just a really weird film. And one of the characters in it is called Molly Grue. So that's kind of where that came from. She was just like this badass kind of ragtag ruffian chick and didn't take any crap from anybody. So um, I kind of picked up that handle, and then it's just stuck. So when it now it's just shortened. Like it did Molly Gruesome, and now it's just Grue. It's easy. Molly Grue. I kind of just felt like changing it up. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more. Um, but yeah, I guess I was talking about getting to into music and starting as Molly Gruesome. So that was where the name came from, was that
Yeah.
cartoon. And the more I started kind of doing raps on my own, um, I started putting it up online, and then it just snowballed from there. And I really didn't expect it to go very far, but it kind of ended up just Juggalos kind of dug it and dug what I was doing, and here we are. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, something I've always been a little curious about, just because I live in the Dayton, Ohio area. So like the I-75 in the United States and I-70 area crosses directly in Dayton, Ohio. And so we kind of get all the stuff from Michigan straight down because it goes all the way up and then all the way down to Florida. So
yeah,
our area was kind of like a really big hot spot for music in general, not just underground music, a lot of music. We got a lot of stuff. So I've always been curious about, and I know it's strange to always be curious about this, but when you're in music, you think about stuff like this because, like you said, when you go to shows, a lot of them are shitty. So when you think a lot, you think of a lot of logistics and stuff like that. How exactly, when you were growing up in school and everything, how was the music scene living in you where you did in Canada? And was it really big as far as, like, I know you said there wasn't a lot of juggalos in your area. Where I grew up, or at least in the I-75 area, like I said, music was a hotbed. So even though where I grew up at the time, the town was about 13, 14,000 people in Troy, Ohio, there was always people wearing Slipknot, Corn shirts, Limp Bizkit shirts, ICP shirts. They were everywhere, even though the town was very small. Was it kind of diverse where live in Canada, or in Canada in general, or is it kind of like, just top 40 stuff? How does that work up there?
Um, as far as underground stuff goes, um, it's a little there's a little less of it because the border stops a
Okay.
lot of artists from coming over. Especially underground artists, and some of them have records. I'm not judging you, but a lot of them just legit can't. Like I think Ouija had some trouble getting across the border last time.
Hmm.
Like even big name artists sometimes get turned away. Like it's so that stops some of it. So we get a little more mainstream than I think we would otherwise as far as like shows and stuff go. There's a decent scene though, and I happened to manage to find like Insane Clown Posse and bands, and it was just like word of mouth back then. Or your homie would be
Hmm.
like, "Hey, check this CD out," and give you the CD, and then there you go, you get into it, right? So in my town, like we were all rock. Well, my group of friends were rocking like Slipknot shirts and stuff too, and we got a lot of stuff coming down from because Detroit's so close to where I'm at. I'm basically I live in between Toronto, Ontario, and Detroit. Is kind of where I am. So we got a lot of Detroit stuff, and I think that's where I got lucky in that I got to be exposed to Juggalo stuff and got into stuff when I might not have otherwise. Because yeah, there wasn't a lot of that in my town for sure. And I find now there's a Canadian scene and there's Canadian underground, and then there's like the US underground, and because of the border issues it doesn't often mix too much. So it's a little different. But I think there used to be a better music scene, and I'm sure this probably goes for everywhere, that the pandemic and stuff really, really cut a lot of things and slowed things down quite a bit. Because I'd say like it's definitely not as prominent as it was. So, but I get lucky being where I am because I'm so close to Toronto, Ontario. Bands come to Toronto. Slipknot will come to Toronto. Like Insane Clown Posse's come to Toronto. Like Tech Nine comes to Toronto. Like it's a tour stop. So being so close to that is cool because if you're anywhere else in Canada, you're SOL for the most part. Like Eminem's probably not going to Saskatoon. It's just how it is, dude. So I feel bad for obviously it's probably worse in other provinces and stuff, but where I'm at,
Yeah.
luckily it's a good, like Toronto's a pretty hopping scene as
Yeah.
far as music goes.
Yeah, we being my old band who was a COVID casualty, Menace to Sobriety, we actually got, I think it was in 2018 or 2019, whatever I forget the last time Twisted was in Canada. We actually got offered to go with them, but we couldn't because our guitarist, who was kind of irreplaceable, had a DUI. That's
Yeah.
it. That's the only reason why we couldn't get through. So yeah,
Hmm.
and I think that's something that people don't really realize. It's not because people don't want to go to Canada, and it's not because you have a terrible record. It's because the rules to get in is so fucking strict. Like I would have
Yeah.
loved to go to fucking Canada. That would have been
Yeah.
great. To go to a completely different country that doesn't get that kind of stuff that often would have been absolutely great. But
Yeah.
again, the guitarist who had a DUI, we couldn't leave without him because like he was the main sound. So we
Yeah.
were fucked. So yeah, that's 100% accurate.
Yeah. Yeah. It affects a lot of groups that want to come here. It's just not possible.
Hmm.
It's unfortunately that's the way it is. So sometimes it sucks because you'll have bought tickets for a show and be super stoked about it, and then it's like, ah, so and so couldn't get across the border. Dang it. So
Yep.
it's definitely like it's got to suck for some artists that want to do it, and then artists too in Canada that want to go and break out in the States, and it's just, you got a record here, like, sucks to suck, man. You're not going over there unless you get a pardon or you get a visa of some kind. Like, it's just it's makes things more complicated. So
Yeah.
they kind of had to make a scene here outside of what was going on where you guys are at. And the Juggalo scene, it actually kind of grew here. People were doing little mini gatherings at bars, and it was kind of neat because you get to meet up with other people. And I performed at a couple of those too, so that kind of helped me get my music out. The people just created events of their own because ICP
Yeah.
wasn't coming to Canada. ICP, they came once in like '98, and then they didn't come again until I think it was the show. It might have been the show that I opened for them, or maybe it was, but it took them forever to come back. And we'd get every once in a while you'd get Twisted or ABK if you were lucky, like come across and do shows, but really, really rare. So people created their own thing and did our own events, and we've had a couple groups kind of pop up from that, like, and that's been interesting in itself, just seeing that formate and seeing the people like, okay, well, what are we going to do if we can't go over? A lot of my friends have records too. They can't cross the border to go to the gathering and see these bands that they like. So, all right, let's do our own thing. Let's figure it out. So that was kind of a cool part of what we've got going on over here, or at least like back when I was heavier into things. I definitely can't speak too much for the current music scene because I've only been back in it for like 6 months. So as I'm kind of like reconnecting with people I used to do things with, and just slowly building up again. But it's it's going to be interesting in that sense. It's a total finding out what things are like now, and what the scene's like. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what was your first real big? Every artist, I think, who has had even the smallest modicum of success, there's one show that everyone always remembers where it's like, okay, all right, yeah, like I'm here. What was the first show where you had that moment where it was like, wow, all right, I'm actually doing stuff? Or is it something you remember?
um it would definitely be, I believe, when Boondocks, it was Boondocks and ABK came to Canada, and it just been forever since anyone from that, like, psychopathic or anything related to it, had come. And I wasn't on the bill. So Sick Social Club was on that bill, and a couple other groups, and I actually just got added last minute. I had a homie who was working the show, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to go up and do a quick set before things pop off?" I think actually Jay Reno was on that show too. Yeah, I'm
Mm,
pretty sure he was. And I was like, okay. So I went up and did a set, and it went like really well. And that was the moment that kind of was like, okay, like this is it. 'Cause up to that had just been like mini gatherings and little things. And this was the first actual like show I got put on. And that led to the Twisted show that I did in Toronto, which was at the Opera House, which is a legendary venue in Toronto. And that show was huge. And then the led to performing on the gathering as well. Like, it was literally the catalyst that kind of boosted me into things from there. So I think George at the time, George from was working with Psychopathic. He now works for Twisted, and he saw that set and saw me perform at that, and he was booking for the gathering, and so he booked me onto the gathering. So it really just like, cool. It went from me being just like, oh, I'm on the internet rapper, and I do a couple local shows, to like you said, here I am. Like
Yeah.
I'm in the scene. So that was definitely very cool
Yeah,
that got to happen.
it's weird because like anybody, and I obviously miss these days on being a Menace. I wasn't with them at the time, but Menace got the same. It was the exact same thing. They ran into George. Anybody that played a gathering, but from the Cave in Rock days on, has something in common with that little Greek fuck. I love him to
Yeah.
death. I love George. George is my dude, but it's so funny if you played a gathering around that time frame, you know who George is. This wild.
Yeah, right? He's the man, dude. Yeah. Yeah, George was
Mhm.
always like cool as hell with me. Just a really cool dude, and he didn't have to put me on at all. There was nothing again, I wasn't a big name artist. I wasn't like and I just got that opportunity. We just gave me that opportunity, which was really cool. So props, George. Thank you. No matter what's going on with Twisted and ICP and all this stuff, whatever, I don't care. George is always a cool dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier. As you said, there's not really a whole lot of female artists in general in the underground. Do you feel like in your time before, and obviously, like you said, you haven't really dug your feet in too much lately. Obviously, you've had a couple of events, but not a lot. But when you were in your hitting your stride, do you feel like maybe there was more obstacles that you had to climb than others just because you were a female in the underground, or do you feel like maybe not so much?
I think there's a bit of a trade-off being a female artist. On the one hand, sticking out in a crowd in any way when you're an artist is good. If there's a group of 9 people and you're the only one that like, okay, I'm the only chick on the bill out of 5 or 6 dudes, and that it kind of makes people pay attention. Like, oh, and that's a good thing. And then just being like the novelty of like, oh hey, like whoa, it's like seeing a unicorn, like what, like especially back then, and even now. A couple of the shows that I've done I did a couple shows with Razakel and them, and there were lots of female artists on the bill, but the majority of the shows I do still I'm usually the only one. Um, it's very rare that there's more than one or say even 3 female artists on a bill. It's just not very common. So like yeah, the novelty of being something out of the ordinary gives you a bit of an edge. Um, and obviously the sex appeal aspect definitely doesn't hurt. If you can use that to your advantage, there you go, that is an advantage. The downside to it, there are a lot of people who automatically dismiss female rappers
Yeah.
completely. um, there are a lot of people who I think like trying to work with people in the industry, and they don't take it as a workplace where like you don't want to be sexually harassed by your coworkers. Um, that just doesn't seem to apply when it comes to hip hop. So
Mm.
I've had just a really ridiculous amount of instances where I'm trying to work with people on a professional level and they don't act professionally. Um,
Yeah.
so that's kind of unfortunate, because dude, like I'm just trying to do it like everybody else, like that kind of sucks because that squashes some relationships, the professional relationships that you can't have, people that approach you like that and want to work with you in music, but also have ulterior motives. And then if you shoot them down, they're not going to work with you in music. You it And so it cuts you off from some things. Whereas like I don't think dudes have that problem. Like you're not like, well, I'm not going to get on this show because I turned down the promoter for like
Yeah.
just dumb stuff like that. Like I don't think you guys have to deal with that. I don't think you've ever had a producer that you were working with ask you for nudes. Like these are things that have happened multiple times. It's crazy. like that part of it is irritating as hell. Because again, like I'm working, guy. I am working. This is something that I'm doing like you guys are, and that is an irritating part. And there's also kind of a weird dynamic at shows, and this is something that I don't know if other female rappers have ever experienced, but from backstage and chatting with the other rappers, and it's usually all guys, and we're all standing in a circle, and another rapper will walk up and, hey, so and so, hey, shaking hands with everybody, I'm so and so, will skip over me and just keep shaking hands through the circle because they assume that I'm just back there because I'm a groupie or somebody's girlfriend. And I'll have to be like, hi, like, I'm an artist too. Just it happens a lot. A lot. It happens
I
a
would
lot.
say
Like,
to at least
noticeably
to
a
that
lot.
point, I think maybe, and I don't mean to cut you off. I just feel like it's
Yeah.
important to point this out. To that point of them skipping over you, some of that could be, I don't know who this person is, and I don't want to ruffle any feathers. You know, I don't want to say
Right.
hello to this person. They might be this person's significant other, and some
Yeah.
people have gotten weird about that. I've seen a lot of shit where it's just an innocent hello turns into a big fucking deal, especially when it comes
Yeah.
to shows. You have
Right.
alcohol involved and people can blow up. So that could be, it could be what you're saying. And I
Yeah.
honestly believe probably more often than not, it probably is,
And
but
that's
it
probably
also
what it
could
is
be,
for
I don't
sure.
know who this is, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? But
Yeah.
to your point though, and I'm going to get on a little bit of a soapbox here, because this is something that has bothered me for a very long time. And anybody who knows me on a personal level is going to hear this and they're going to think that it's out of character, because I am not by any means, shape, or form somebody who you could categorize. And I'm not going to get political here, but I'm not somebody in any way, shape, or form who you could categorize as being liberal or conservative, but definitely not liberal these days.
Mhm.
So there is a gigantic gap in support for men artists and female artists. Now, here's why I'm going to say this. Look at all people could say there might not be as much talent in female artists as there are male. Let me go ahead and challenge that real fucking fast. Nova Rockefeller, Snow the Product, yourself,
Mhm.
Whitney Payton. I can
Yep.
go on and on and on and on and list all these different rappers who are of the female variety who are just as dope, if not more, than a good majority of men out there. Look, I'm gonna piss some people off by saying this. I've seen a lot of shows. There are a massive fuck ton of trash male artists in this world that get play over female artists who are 800 times more talented than some of these wicked killer 666 motherfuckers who just paint themselves out, look the part, and they appeal to the image. They're no good in music. I see them all the time. They're no good musically, but they appeal to the image and they get
Mhm.
more support than female rappers who are actually dope. Now, here's why I can say that I know that for a fact. I've been on all three sides of a venue. I've been front of stage, I've been on stage, and I've been backstage. I hear what people say. I watch as a promoter when I used to promote shows, and I was very successful. That's how I got connected with Twisted. It was because I promote shows. One of the things I would always do is when somebody's on stage, I'm typically not watching the person on stage, I'm watching the crowd. I'm watching the reactions because I want to know who comes back, or who to bring back rather.
Right.
And so I'm watching the reaction of the crowd more than anything else. One of the best slash worst shows I ever did. It was the best because the talent in the room was some of the best I ever did. But it was the worst because the ticket count was as lowest of anything I've ever done. Was a Whitney Payton show.
Mhm.
She sold 80 tickets. Now, our scene was very big at the time when I booked her. We were selling Twisted shows out with no problem. All I had to do was just put them on the bill and it sold out. We sold 80 tickets in a room that holds 500, well, held 550 people. 80 tickets for Whitney Payton, who has
Mhm.
been in the scene for quite some time. It blows my mind that just because a woman is on stage she doesn't get as much attention. Again, it has to be that. There's no other way around it. It has to be that. The talent is there. The music is there. I know. I paid attention to all of it. And it's fucking bullshit. And people want to sit there and talk about how accepting the underground is. Yes, the underground will accept you until you want to be a part of it. As long as you're in the background, that's fine. But as soon as you want to do something with it and you try to do something that they're doing, then it's I don't know. I'm not, like I said, I was going to go on a soapbox, but it
Preach, brother, preach.
infuriates me. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. And I think like some of it I don't think is necessarily people are hate women or don't like or whatever. I'm not, thinking that that's the case necessarily. A lot of
Right.
people, a lot of guys seem to think that because it's a woman, like maybe you're not going to relate to the songs or you're not going to be able to, or even like when I'd put out like a little bit feminist kind of messages in my music, and people would be like, oh, why do you got to do that, or we don't want to hear that. And it's like, guy, if I can sing along to bitches ain't shit but hoes tricks, bitches ain't shit but hoes and chicks, and all these other male rappers who are singing stuff, and these are songs that I can still enjoy, even though it's maybe not my perspective 100% or something
Right.
like that. Like you can still enjoy the music and you can still like get into it. I think people get kind of hesitant because they're just like, oh, it's like you can enjoy it from, it's a different perspective, but I think that kind of holds people back sometimes, from supporting in that sense, or getting into it, because they look at it, they're like, oh, it's a chick. Well, I wouldn't relate to that. I don't have a vagina. It's like, like I listen to so many male rappers, and yeah, I don't relate to having a fucking dick. But I can relate to whatever else you have in your music, or enjoy your perspective, um, and whatever it is. So I definitely think if you are hesitant in that sense, like give it a shot, and maybe you'll find something you really like. There's definitely a lot of super dope female artists out there, as you said, like Snow the Product, yo, she's blown up a lot, and that's super cool. Like she was big back in the day, but to see what she's doing now, she's really got her own empire going. And another artist, that a female artist I got to bring up, is I mentioned I'd done some shows with Razikel, and I bring her up specifically because she is supporting the fuck out of female artists in the scene right
Mm-hmm.
now, putting them on shows. She's got a female run label. She has female artists signed to it. She's really like, I was really impressed with the fact that that's what she's doing, and that there's an avenue for it. And eventually we're going to get to that point where there are more female record labels, and there are more like female run record labels, and female promoters and female producers, and female engineers, and you're going to get to that point eventually. And then I think you'll see more support and stuff. One thing that people really don't take into account is just friendship, and how friendship and making connections with other artists helps you so much as an artist. Networking,
Yeah.
100%. So
Yep.
so you go to a show and rock a show with someone, you have beers together, you have good time, homies, your friends. Oh, the next time you throw a show, you're gonna get your homie on. You're gonna so the natural friendships that men have with each other, and like even if like all it helps you as an artist. There aren't female producers that I get buddy with, because there really aren't a lot. There aren't
Yeah.
other female artists that I'm working with because we were friendship network, because there's just not a lot out there. So you don't
Right.
get as much of that connection, I think, in that sense. Is you guys naturally have the 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 friendship connection, and that's not as apparent, I think, for female artists. So, but
Yeah.
there's advantages too. Like I said, like it's we have the opportunity here to be a voice for people that there aren't a lot of outlets for. So there's not a ton of other artists that you can relate. They're like female artists that are doing it. So we had kind of the artists that are doing it have the opportunity to be like, all right, let's go. Let's put some power into this, you know? And it's cool
Sure.
because like it can influence people a lot. I think we definitely have opportunity to kind of show the world like what we got. So let's do
Yeah.
it.
And not only that, I would always try to, even if there was a female artist in our area, I would always try to find something to book them in because it's different. And I think one of the
Mhm,
things that holds back holds back a lot of underground acts these days, and it's everywhere. It's not just one person, but I've had conversations with this about what I'm about to say with multiple people that I'm close with. It's the same goddamn show every fucking time. It's the same artists playing the same venues in the same cities. You got to break
mhm.
that up, or else people are
Yeah.
just going to be like, oh, I'll skip this one and I'll go to the next one. So I took advantage of that when I was a promoter, and I would book if there was a female artist, even if they were just kind of getting, beginning on in the roots, I'd put them on because that's
Mhm,
different. You never see, even though they might not have, and that's what led me to try to book Whitney Payton anyway. I mean, at the time, I think the two artists that were back to back with in the booking, it was I had Do or Die, I don't know how big they were in Canada, but they were pretty big here in the United States. It was a rap artist, Do or Die, which for those who don't know, they're the artists that go, "Do you want to ride in the backseat of a caddy, chop it up?" That's them. So, case
yeah.
in point, them and Twisted, and in the middle I had Whitney Payton. My idea was break it up so it's original. Granted, it didn't work. Again, I mean, I shouldn't say it didn't work. It didn't work out as well as I wanted it to,
Mhm,
but I would split things up. That's just the example of how I would split it up. And I think if people, thank God for venues like Carl's Tavern, who openly allow different acts to come in, and that's why they're always successful. If other people would follow that model and take advantage of all the things that people don't see, it
mhm,
would open up doors for female artists. And I hope people who are watching this who do put together shows um realize that there's so much out there that you could take advantage of, but maybe it's overlooked because, as you said, it's very challenging for female artists to get opportunities like that. So you have to, it shouldn't be you have to link up with other females who are in this industry. It should be the same thing like you just said. It should be you should be able to make friends with somebody and have that connection. Not, oh, there's a woman, that I'm trying to make that connection with. It should be anybody. And I hope
mhm.
people really start taking advantage of that because there's a ton of talent out there that they could. What are your plans as far as, obviously you retired? Let's go ahead and circle back to that real fast. You ended up hanging it up. This is something, if you don't want to touch on it, that's fine. I'll cut this out completely of the show. But why did you decide, hey, that's enough?
Um, it was like a perfect storm of everything in my life just kind of fell apart at the same time. A lot of people who know me, I was a single mother. Um, at the time, I was trying to raise a teenager. I had two jobs and I was trying to do music. And I wasn't mentally well. I've been struggling with anxiety and depression for a long time. So when things started to fall apart, it was just like everything fell apart. Like I was just juggling all these balls and they all just went, like onto the ground. I think it was just like burnout almost. Like I couldn't put 100% into parenting and music and everything. Like it just was, I was just being torn in so many different directions. And at the end of the day, yeah, music is really fun and I really enjoyed doing it, but had a responsibility at home, and I wasn't gonna let that suffer for my music. And when things started to fall apart and I was just really overwhelmed, I was having panic attacks a lot. I had to cut something out to make my life simpler so that I could get a handle on my life and get things back together. And it was not going to be my kid or my job. And music was it. Like that was the thing that I'm just like, I can't do this. I can't. I had just had some issues at home, and I really just couldn't put my heart into it. So I had a mental breakdown and I decided I was done. I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to keep stressing myself out. Like, I was getting really anxious at shows, at times when I should have been happy and excited. I wasn't. I
Yeah.
remember, uh, I think this was probably one of the last shows. So, Juggalo Day, 2016 was probably the coolest show I've ever been on in my life. I got to open for ICP and Esham and Mushroom Head, like huge bands that I'm just like been in love with for my whole life, and it was such a big thing. And my anxiety was so bad that I couldn't really enjoy it. Couldn't enjoy it the way I should have been enjoying that kind of success. If you can't be happy in moments that you should be happy, in moments that should bring you joy, and you're miserable or scared or just not, then you need to start taking care of your mental health. Because those are moments you should be able to smile and you should be able to enjoy your success, and I couldn't, because I was just so not well. Um, so yeah, I just decided that's it. It's gonna go. I announced I was done. I did the last two shows, which was ICP in Guelph, which was amazing, and then the Gathering, which was amazing, which you got to see. I caught that
Hmm.
CD, and it was really
Yep.
weird because I hadn't even decided to quit when I did the album, The End. I didn't do
Mm.
that album and call it The End because I recorded that before I decided I was done. So it was just kind of a strange. The theme of the album was about kind of like death and like you've heard it, So the theme of it was kind of that, and then it ended up being my last work as Molly Gruesome. So it was very fitting. It just
Yeah.
worked out, it worked out that way. But props to Jay Reno for all the work he did on that album, because he just recorded it all for me, put it all together for me, did a couple of beats on it. Like he's super dope. I got some of his right now that I plan on working on. So, but yeah, I definitely think music is great. If that's what you want to do and you're doing it, it's good. But make sure you're taking care of your home and make sure you're taking care of your family. I think, funny enough, another aspect of being a female artist that I don't think a lot of male artists necessarily have to deal with is like a lot of them have their baby mama watching their kids while they're on tour. You
Yeah.
know, I, that's less of a thing. Like having like imagine I go on tour and I leave my kid with my baby daddy, like he's a stay-at-home dad. Like that's not a dynamic that's as common.
Right.
So I think it makes it a little different, for a lot of people. Like you've got somebody there who's watching the home front and making sure everything's okay and taking care of things. And I didn't have that, and it was too much. It was too much, and you really have to take care of your core. You have to take care of your finances and your family and your mental health, and music can come after that, or it can take a backbench, because I see a lot of people that chase the dream, and while they're chasing the dream, their regular everyday life is just in fucking shambles.
Yeah.
And I don't recommend it. I'm gonna say from
Yeah.
experience, just I don't recommend it. You definitely take care of yourself. So now I I stopped. I stopped doing music. I stopped doing going anywhere. I stopped going to shows. I didn't go to gatherings. I didn't go to local shows. I think the last thing I went to was the DCG Con in Detroit years ago, and then I didn't go to anything after that. Like I stopped talking to pretty much everyone for music. I was just like, I'm done. Like I want to just focus on myself and getting myself better. And I really didn't plan to return um, at all. But I I got medicated. I've done therapy. My daughter has graduated from college, and she's an adult now. She doesn't need my help. I don't have to be. I can go on tour if I want to. It's not going to affect my home life. It's not going to negatively impact my life or
Yeah.
the lives of people I love. So that's kind of cool now coming back into it. And I have more freedom than I did before. And I was held back from doing a lot of things and a lot of opportunities because I was straight up like, I got a kid at home. Like, I can't be going out doing XYZ. It just is not possible. So now I've kind of got a different dynamic in that sense, as I can do whatever I want. I started going out to shows again after 7 years. I went to a local hip hop show, and I was like, okay, I like this. And then I went to another one, and I was like, I really want to be back. I saw movies up there rapping. I saw like Noah 23 is a rapper from my town, is legendary. Like he's worked with everybody, Suicide Boys, Cool Keith. Like the list is just insane. He was gonna work with Lil Peep before Peep passed. Like he's a hidden gem of Guelph, Ontario. So I went to see Noah 23, and he just killed it, and it got the fire going again. It just seeing people on stage and doing it, and I was like, yo, I used to love this. Like I really loved it before things started going crazy, and before like my mental health was so bad. I really, really loved it. I loved being on stage. I loved
Yeah.
performing. It was so you have done it, it's a rush, it's a thrill, it's when you get on stage and you have a room full of people watching you, and you have your opportunity to express yourself however you want, and get your message and your words out there, and see people feeling you. Like it's a crazy feeling, it's a great feeling. And also just writing songs and recording songs. I always loved doing that. So the more I kind of started coming out again, and seeing the local rap scene, the more I wanted to do it again. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. But I'm not Molly Gruesome anymore. I'm not the same person. I think I'm older and maybe not wiser, but I've mellowed out, and I just feel like I want to start fresh. And I started with the new name, and just figure out where I want to go with it from here. But the goal for me is doing it in a way that's not going to overwhelm me, and doing it in a way that's always going to be enjoyable for me and fun for me, because that's why I do it. This isn't a money making thing for me, dog. I've never made money off of this shit. Like I've been underground, dude. It's hard as hell to make. We all have day jobs. Don't let anyone
Yeah.
fool you. These
That's
artists
right.
have day jobs, or they don't have a day job. They have a job within the music industry that gets them money. Their actual rap probably probably doesn't make them a lot. It's tough. It's a tough hustle.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm coming into it this time. It's just like, I'm not looking to get signed. I'm not looking to blow up. I'm not, I'm just looking to get my music out there, and hopefully get people who enjoy it too and relate to it, and do shows, and have that connection with the crowd again, and make music because I love it, and I love making music. That's the
Yeah.
whole goal now. That's the plan.
The episode before this one, I interviewed Tim Russ. For those who don't know who Tim Russ is, if you ever seen the movie Spaceballs, he's the guy
Yeah.
in the desert who's combing it. So
He's coming the desert.
check. Yep, he's also Tuvok in Star Trek Voyager, which me and my wife are. I've always been a huge Star Trek fan in general. I'm one of those nerds. But anyway, the point of me bringing the interview up, which by the way, if you haven't checked it out, should be live right now. I was having a conversation with him about music because he's also a musician, and I said the exact same thing you did. Being on stage is better than any drink I've ever drank, any drug I've ever taken. It is
Mhm,
addicting. There's no way to describe how addicting it is unless you've dealt with it. And it's a hard thing to let go, especially like okay, for my lifestyle these days, now that Menace to Sobriety is no longer a band, I still get my music fix because I work shows for Ala Zulu and Long Live Evil. So I'm their front of house guy basically. And
mhm.
I get my fix off that. But even still then, like for instance, when we do Camp Zool, I'll be on the side of the stage and I'll just be watching and I'll just be like, fuck, because I want to be up there.
You miss it.
Now,
You miss
I
it,
do
don't
miss it.
you?
I do miss it until I think about the other thing you were talking about, the stress that it puts on you. And that's something that people don't understand is
Mhm.
just how much you see people living their dream and you think that, wow, this must be great. Not really. There is a poster right here. It's from the Spooktacular Horror Show tour. That's the very first tour I ever went on. It was one of the best and worst experiences I ever had in my life. It was a full 30-day tour. It was us, Mac Lethal, Twisted, Zodiac Imprint, who's Blaze and ROC. We
Mhm.
traveled all around the country, and we almost died 4 times, I think, because we took a RV. Um, every single day we broke down. Every single day we broke down. We would have came back with $10,000 if it wasn't for the repairs that we
Oh
had.
my god.
It bankrupted the band. We had
Yeah.
a very successful tour and came back with nothing to show for it. So something that was amazing for everyone, even though it was terrible at the same time, was almost the end at that point, was almost the end of the band. And stuff like that is what I reflect on when I'm on the side of the stage looking up at somebody, whether it be AXE or anybody in general. Blaze always gets me. Every single Camp Zoo, I'll just be on side of the stage, just be like, every damn time. But then I remember the stress. It's not for everybody, and that's why I
Yeah.
decided to do this podcast. I really wanted to create again, right? Because it's been
Mhm.
so long. The last, I think it was either 13, I think, whatever the last New Year's Evil was. By the time this has came out, there's been another New Year's Evil that Twisted has done. But the last
Right.
one before COVID hit, that was my last show. So it's been 4 years since I've done a show at this point, and I miss it like no other. But I don't want the stress, so I
Yeah.
decided to go with the podcast because this is a way I can create. This is a way I can talk about that with people like you, people like my first guest, Lee Carver from Malazulu. That I can talk about it, and that is enough for me. But I
Mhm.
totally understand that want of being on the other side of it and just going, fuck what I wouldn't give for one more day to be up there with my band rocking the fuck out
Right.
and watching people. Though that is one thing that I am grateful for. The last show I did was the very first time I ever looked out into the crowd and saw people singing my words back to me. I
That's
always
good.
wanted that. That was one goal that I always wanted in music. I want to be able to look down and I want to see people sing my song back to me. And I got that. So, and not only that, I got to work with, I mean, anytime I ever want to figure out what I did, I just look at this. This is my wall of accomplishment right here. I've got all my tour passes, everything. I can look at this and go, okay, I did that, and I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. So I guess this is my long-winded way of saying I totally understand everything you're saying. It's not something easy to put
Yeah.
down, regardless of what you might think or how terrible it is at the time, how bad your life is falling apart. You're always going to come back to it.
Mhm. Yeah. It's
But
definitely addictive. It's very much a rush, and it's cool, and there is a lot of stuff in the background that the audience sees the cool, fun part, that 30 minutes or whatever your slot is that you're on
Yeah.
stage, that you're rocking and it's cool and it's fun. The amount of work and time and stress that
Yeah.
goes goes on for days, weeks, months before that 30 minutes to get to that 30 minutes. And it is like wild. Like it's it's funny. Like you look at it, like sometimes they'll just there's so much work and promo and putting up
Hmm.
flyers and doing the work online and putting stuff out. When you're an independent artist, it's a constant grind to promote yourself and get yourself out there. Doing a lot of that stuff yourself, and and then it's all for that 15-20 minute set. And it seems to go by so
Yeah.
quick, and it's so fun. And then it's like, okay, time to start work for the next time I'm on the stage for 30 minutes
Right.
or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's wild.
I always tell everybody that when it comes to music, I work 23 hours and 40 minutes a day to do what I want to do 20 minutes of the day. That's the
Mhm.
best way really to describe it. Like you said, you work
Yeah,
constantly. The actual doing the music part is the least thing you'll do. Yeah, it's crazy. Even with a band, even with a 7-piece band. I mean, granted,
yeah,
we had to practice, so there is that, but even practice is work,
yeah,
so it was the one thing that I liked doing the most was the thing I did the least. So, that's something
yeah,
else that kind of kept me away. But, I'm
yeah.
definitely glad that you decided to come back. When I saw your profile was suggested to me in one of my things, I'm like, oh shit. So I clicked on it. I'm like, she's back. So I was definitely happy that, it's great that you got everything ended up working out for you. I absolutely love the fact that you are on a comeback tour. I didn't get a chance to, I saw that you and my homie V Sinister were at Carl's Tavern. I was trying
Mhm.
so hard to make that work, but I just couldn't make it. Next time you guys are in the area, especially this guy right here, I love him so much. V Sinister
Oh,
is one
he's
of my
great.
favorite motherfuckers I've ever met before in my life.
Yo, you see
But
him live and it's just like he's next level, dude. Like he's a next level
yes,
performer. He should not be on these little stages and these little bars. Like
yeah,
homie should be on a stadium stage. Like that guy has
yeah,
a presence and a energy when he's on stage that
hmm,
is amazing. Like he killed it for
absolutely.
sure. Yeah, yeah. V
Literally
Sinister.
the only person that I have to this day, we're going into Camp Zool 4 now. He's the only person that I walked around the stage and stood in front of and watched him perform. Only person. I didn't care at that point. He's in
Yeah.
just a humble dude. But anyway, the point
Yeah,
is
yeah,
that
he's really down to
next
earth too. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And there's a reason why he's on my wall, and he's been on every single recording I've done, is because I love the dude. But
Yeah.
anyway, not anyway. Regardless, next time you're in the area, I'm definitely gonna have to. Now that, especially since we have this conversation, I will be face to face with you one way or the other. I hope it's sooner than later.
Awesome.
Um, I am going. We're now that we're winding down. We're about to hit the about the hour mark at this point. I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to you. If there's anything you would like to promote, whether it be social media, where to find your music, whatever you'd like. Floor is yours.
All right. You can find me online. It's at Voice of Grue on Instagram and Twitter and whatever else. And then I'm on Facebook. There's a group page. If anyone liked the old Molly Gruesome page, it's literally still the same page. I just changed the name. So thankfully, I was able to harness into that because I had like 2,500 people on that page, and losing all of that would have sucked. So that I could just pop back into there and just come back like that was kind of cool because I got to reconnect with people that way. So yeah, on Facebook, I have like one track out on Spotify right now and Apple Music and whatever you stream on. It's called How It's Done. It's featuring Noah 23 from Guelph. So you can check that out. And hopefully I'll have more music out soon. It's funny because I started doing this and I started getting booked for shows before I really had music out. I have music to perform. I have music that I perform live. Most of it hasn't been recorded. It's literally just stuff I've been working on that I'm like, all right, let's do this. And I go up on stage and I don't have backing tracks and I don't even have the hook in there and I just rock it. Like it's been very organic And it is kind of cool too because I get to see like which songs people are feeling live before I'm gonna get down and record it, or which parts get people hyped. So I think by the time I do record some of these songs, they'll have improved for it. You know, which parts when I'm rapping them live, it is does it not is it difficult to get over, or doesn't maybe it doesn't sound right, maybe I'll change it. So yeah, that's kind of been interesting. So hopefully I will have more music out soon. It's winter time. You're from Ohio, you understand. Wintertime is terrible time to do shows and tour. I want to be driving 8, 9 hours in the wintertime to do a show. It's I know I don't want to do that. So my
Yeah.
plan is to settle down for the next couple months and just write and record and have stuff out for everybody. So they kind of check out the new stuff. And a lot of it I'm sure is similar to my old stuff because it's still me. You know, I'm not like doing a super drastic change. It's still just little Molly. But I'm hoping to just kind of just be myself and do my own thing, and I'm hoping people enjoy it too. So check it out, Grue, Grue. That's the new name, and I'm really grateful for the support. I'm glad you reached out to me to do this interview. I had mixed feelings about coming back, and I wasn't sure what it was going to be like, if people were going to even care, or if they were going to be like, fuck that bitch, she fuck her. Like, I had no idea. And I'm sure some people do feel that way, or do feel hurt that I just dropped off completely and just dropped it, like everything. Like, it's not like I picked and chose who I was still going to talk to and who I wasn't. I dropped everybody. It wasn't a personal thing against anyone in the music industry, people that I've worked with before, that you stopped hearing from me. It wasn't because I was like, fuck this guy. Like, I stopped talking to everybody. So if you are watching this and you haven't talked to me in a while, hit me up, yo. Like, I'm back. I'm doing my thing. And yeah. Thank you so much for having me on here and showing interest, because like it's really cool to get support from people and see that people are still interested in what I have to say and remember stuff. Like, I keep getting floored by that too. People are like, oh, I still have one of your shirts, or oh, I still have this, and I'm like, yo, it's been 7 years. Like, that's a while. That people still hung on and still are interested. It means a lot to me. So yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
appreciate
And it's absolutely my pleasure to bring you on here. I was definitely glad that you accepted it. You, like I said, obviously, since I still have the album, I love the
it.
fact that, that you were in the scene to begin with, and I love it even more that you're coming back. So, Gru, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining me today, and let's do this again soon, okay?
All right, let's do it. Thank you.